This is Dubai, a place we like to call the crown jewel of the UAE. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Philip, an auto journalist, and I've spent over 20 years in this wonderful country. Living here, you start noticing the subtle shifts in the cars we drive and the brands we trust. And lately, there's one shift that's very hard to ignore. We are, of course, talking about Chinese cars. And let's be honest, they've been all over the news lately, and for good reason. They've been doing a lot of things right, and clearly people in the UAE have been buying in. So we thought, why not start our first video with something that's left quite an impression on us. Welcome everyone to the 2026 Geely Cityray. Now, before you dismiss this as just another Chinese car, let me quickly hit you with a few facts. Firstly, this car shares its platform with none other than the Volvo XC40. Second, when put up against its rivals like the Nissan Kicks, the Cityray is not just the most powerful, but it's the most affordable in this category. Third, it drives beautifully. And finally, it comes with more tech than the phone in your pocket. So in this video, we'll be trying to explain to you why we think that this is the most ideal crossover for the urban jungle. Let's start by talking about the styling. The Cityray's design doesn't scream for attention. It's clean, well proportionate and well finished. At first glance, it reminds you of the bigger sibling, the Starray. And these sharp LED headlamps, doesn't it remind you of the saber-tooth tiger? Moving over to the sides, these sharp lines follow all the way to the sides as well, ending with a sloping roof. And this pays dividend to the interior space, which we'll get to in a minute. And at the bottom, we have GT tires, which have a run flat feature, and can be opted with 18 or 19-inch alloy wheels. Moving over to the rear, you get a very sporty design. The sloping roof ends with a sharp Aventador-esque spoiler, and lower down you get these connected LED tail lamps with a sharp and pointy design, giving it a very sporty appeal. Okay, so now that I've had my fair share of time in the Cityray, let's talk about the interior. Now the first thing you would notice is this large 13.3-inch portrait-oriented display. Here you can access your wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, your vehicle settings and so on. Now the annoying thing here is that since there are no physical buttons, you can only access your AC controls through the display, which could be a problem when you're driving. Now, it is a good time for us to mention that the car we have on test is not a fully spec model. So we are missing out on features like a panoramic sunroof, a 540-degree camera which also shows you the undercarriage, a full ADAS suite, and a 42-color ambient lighting. It also gets this 10.2-inch digital instrument cluster, which is non-interactable. But it shows you your essentials like the speed, the tire pressures, the revs, the temperatures, and so on. The steering wheel is in almost octagonal shape and houses the cruise control and your media buttons. And get this, it also gets this rotating volume knob, which feels very satisfying. The dashboard gets a dual tone finish with white leather inserts and carries over the pointy arrow shape from the exterior, which can also be seen on the door panels. Speaking of the door panels, you get these quirky window switches and this rather unusual door release handle. Here's another interesting feature. The volume knob can also be used to adjust your wing mirrors. Now you would probably already noticed that the dual tone finish carries over to the seats as well, which are finished in a leather and fabric material. Now the cushioning on the seats are also very comfortable. Now moving over to the center console, it gets a gloss black finish, which is a fingerprint magnet. Moving over to the practicality side, on the front you get space to store 2 phones, and once you roll this back, you have enough space to store a 500 ml bottle twice. Now at the back of the center console, you get a chilled storage compartment, and if you still want more space, there's more underneath the center console as well, where you can also find 2 USB-C charging ports and a 12-watt power adapter. Now, let's move over to the back. Now let's talk about the rear passengers. See, now I'm just under 6 foot tall, and with the driver's seat adjusted to my driving position, I have enough room to stretch my legs. And because of the sloping roofline I was talking about earlier, I have plenty of headroom as well. In terms of comfort features, you get rear AC vents, a USB-A port, and storage underneath it for your phone. You can also store a 500 ml bottle in the door cubby, but you don't get a rear armrest. Now let's finally talk about the boot space. Now one thing to note is that it doesn't have an automatic boot lid. But once it opens up to 571 liters of boot space, which in the real world translates to one bag of each size with plenty of room to spare. Perfect for a weekend getaway or an airport run. Now that the practicality bit is sorted out, let's talk about the best part. The way this car drives. Because it is an absolute joy to be behind the wheel of the Cityray. Under the hood, you get a 1.5-liter turbocharged engine that makes 172 horsepower and 290 Nm of torque. We'll get to the power in a bit, because first I want to talk about the transmission. The Cityray is the only car in its category at the time of filming to feature a Wet DCT gearbox, meaning it uses oil to cool the transmission. This will significantly reduce the chances of it overheating, especially in Dubai's traffic. And the goodness doesn't stop there, because the shifts are so smooth that it's barely noticeable. Allow me to demonstrate. See, the car comes with 4 driving modes. By default, it's in comfort mode. You also get the option of Sport, Eco, or if you're not sure about any of those, you can switch it to Intelli mode, where the car adapts to the way you drive. For now, let me switch it to Sport mode and show you how it accelerates. See, there is a slight delay when you press the pedal, but then the torque kicks in, and you can barely keep up with the numbers on the speedo. It almost feels as quick as the electric Volvo XC40 recharge. The Cityray is so torquey that there's no real need to wait for the power to kick in, even at highway speeds. It's not the kind of experience one can describe. It's something you will have to feel for yourself. Around the corners, the car feels very composed and confident. The steering also stiffens up according to the driving modes, giving you better control. For an SUV, the suspension is on the stiffer side, but it's a lot more forgiving than you would imagine. Okay, so let's wrap it up. See, I think that the Cityray is the perfect example to prove that Chinese manufacturers have evolved to a point where it can give any other brands a run for its money. I mean, it's a well-built, well-thought-out product that's fast, refined, and packed with features. It would no doubt make an average user's daily drive a whole lot more easier. So, final thoughts? Well, if you're in the market for a new crossover, put those apprehensions aside and give the Cityray a test drive. I can assure you that you will not regret it. Now, if you feel like buying the car outright is not a feasible option for you right now, you can always opt to either rent it from the self-drive app or even lease it. And that's a wrap on this video. Thank you all for joining. This is Philip signing off.